Back, everybody. This is another live episode of Growing with My Fellow Growers. We are joined with a guest and the usual panel this week. I'm going to pass it off first to the Oklahoma duo that's joining us together in one frame this week, Aaron the Grower and Brandon Rust. Welcome.
What's up?
What is going on, everybody? I'm about to rename this here so people can see both of us.
I'm Brandon Rust. You can find me at Bokashi Earthworks. ATG here.
How'd you spell
ATG Acres on Instagram. Next up, we've got Spartan Grown up in Michigan. Cheers, Spartan.
What's up, everybody? I'm Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram, all one word, Spartan Grown. Or if you don't have social media, you can shoot me an email at spartangrown@gmail.com, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. I'm an organic grower in Michigan at home, and at work I grow synthetically, so I got my foot in kind of both sides.
We're happy to have you back as always. It's a pleasure. My phone was not on mute there. I'm trying to pull up the live chat. Just a reminder to everybody to make sure you click on over to the live chat so you can see all the messages and don't have any filtered out by the YouTube algorithm. Next up, going over to the East Coast, we have Predicative Breeding. Kyle, how's it going?
Hey everybody, my name is Kyle Breeder, and what I specialize in is feminized seeds. If anybody's looking for something like that, and autoflower seeds, thanks to Full Duplex, you can find my website at the letter P followed by breeding.com, and you can look at any of my work at Predicative Breeding on all social media platforms. And if you want to check out my personal Instagram, which doesn't have much on there, is Breeders Genetics. And glad to be here, and glad to see what we have to entail tonight.
Happy to have you back on another full panel this week. Next up, another East Coaster. We got the American one.
Jack, panel, everyone in chat. It's good to be here tonight. I hope everyone had a great weekend so far. We got an extra day in tomorrow, so I hope you're all taking advantage of it, and stay lifted and gifted.
Always happy to have you, and lifted and gifted already for sure. Feeling that way at least. I'm going to bring it back to the West Coast and pass it over to Dr. MJ Coco.
Hey, grower love everyone. I'm Dr. MJ Coco from cocoforcannabis.com. We publish articles, tutorials, and guides on the science and practice of growing cannabis, and I'm excited for the show today.
Excited to have you as always. Just watched one of your light reviews for that Medic Fold 8 LED that's going to be given away after the Coco for Cannabis strain review is, I think it's on the 1st, which is pretty exciting stuff for anybody who entered.
Yep, one day left to get your strain reviews in for that one.
Today is the final day for sure, and another Southern Californian who's joining us this week is our resident IPM specialist and Skunk Magazine writer, General Awesome Dude, Matthew Gates. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm going by Insectus Optimus Maximus for this week, Jack. No, but I appreciate it. No, thanks. Like you said, I'm an IPM specialist, and I'm making a lot of content on the internet geared towards pest management, agriculture, and particularly the cannabis space for the last 5 or 6 years. I also had a published book come out, or at least a chapter in a book come out. I got to get that soundbite right. And if you have any IPM questions, you can head over to my YouTube channel, Zenthanol, as well as my Discord, which is accessible through Patreon for those who have those burning IPM questions and want some help. I'm trying to be as helpful to people as possible.
I've found since even before I met you, you've been extremely helpful to not just me, but the entire community at large when it comes to IPM, identifying pests and how to deal with them. So always grateful to have you here, and thankful for your time, and encourage the people to support at least that $1 Patreon if you can. You'll get access to a pretty awesome Discord group and have access to basically the holy grail of IPM, getting things figured out over there. Matthew's a wonderful resource, but last but certainly not least, we have a new person joining our panel this week, special guest Max Scrimmin Ruby. He asked a while back to be on the show, and back then I wasn't having anybody that hadn't been on an individual interview, but since our old host is no longer with us doing individual interviews, we sort of broke that rule a few weeks back and had some guests on here and there. So we're happy to have another guest on this week. Welcome, Max.
Hey everybody, what's up? Happy to be here. My name is Max Scrimmin Ruby with underscores instead of a space. And once again, yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Been waiting to come on the show, and I'm glad we made it possible.
In the time between when you initially were inquiring about coming on the show, we actually kind of, like I said, had the thing of people had were only coming on the Growing with My Fellow Growers if they had been on another cheap home grow show, whether it was an individual interview or a little round table, whatever it may be. But we're happy to have you this week. And I wanted to mention that I actually myself kind of pushed you a bit to start your own podcast, and you've been doing that for a while. And several of us, I believe, have actually been on your show over there at Talking Buds.
Yeah, I did start a little podcast called Talking Buds, and I had you, Kyle, and Dr. MJ on so far. Plan to have everybody actually come on. And I'm still doing other home grower videos and content with other people, but it's just taking a little bit longer to get out. So
Outside of the Instagram at Max Scrim and Ruby, where can the people find you?
you can also find me at Talking Buds Podcast at gmail.com. And I do check that weekly. So
Do you have a YouTube page?
I don't have a YouTube page, no.
No worries. When I heard you say you're making videos for grow related content, is that on the Instagram?
Well, I'm sending actually like videos and like how-tos to another person with a YouTube channel, but it hasn't been started yet, so I'm not even gonna list it right now.
No worries. Just wanted to make sure to plug it. If you do end up giving me the link to that, I could put it in the description of this after the fact. So people that watch this, I don't know how much of a group that is, but anybody who goes back after weeks later and listens to this, they could go and see whatever that YouTube may end up being. Just wanted to say welcome to the show. Always happy to have a new perspective and new home grower with us. And maybe for the chat and listeners, you could tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe when you started growing and how you're growing now.
Yeah, for sure. So I started growing probably just over a year and a half ago. I just and got multiple I'm from the Midwest, right by Michigan, so we do have access to good genetics or clones. And also, I mean, it doesn't really matter since pretty much everybody will ship you seeds. But yeah, I just started in a little 4x4 tent with a couple cheap Mars Hydro lights, and from there, I've actually gone to a 4x8 tent, and I'm doing like a split test right now with a quantum board LED versus one of the photon tech lights actually that Dr. MJ hooked me up with and got me in with. And so I'm trying to see what the difference is between the lights, how they distribute the light, and just the end weights, and see what the difference is. And so far that photon tech is definitely the better light. So I do like the bar style lights, and that's probably all I will be buying from now on.
Now, it's cool to see a lot of the LEDs switching over to the bar style. I think it does distribute the light a little bit better. Doc, I'm curious what you think about Mars has been making, in my opinion, some pretty large advances over the last few years. A lot of people might know them from the Blurple days when they made lesser quality lights, but they've come a really far way since then. They're making the white spectrum LEDs with boosts and reds and things like UVs and some blues in some cases. And I think even now there's some, I think it's like the FC something that has a bar style. Doc, what do you think about their bar style lights, and are they holding up with some of the more expensive lights?
Yeah, they really are. The last couple of the bar style lights from Mars, the larger, both the FC and the FCE, that's the adjustable bar one. They're like top of the line. I mean, a little like 2.4, I think, or right around there, 2.38, 2.4 for the photon efficiency on both of those, which is really like at the top of the charts. There's very few fixtures that get better than that. The smaller fixtures are a little bit less efficient, down like the 2.1 to 2.2 range, but that's just sort of a function of the economies of scale and sort of how efficient you can be in different size spaces. But absolutely. At the same time, the prices have come up a little bit on the Mars fixtures, so they're no longer sort of the cheapest lights out there, but they definitely stand up.
In fact, I recommended Mars Light to one of my family members who's starting to grow their own in a 2x4, and the SP3000, when you look at that par map and the efficiency and the cost upfront of getting started with that for a 2x4, I figured was the perfect light for them in that space. And I was really impressed when I saw how evenly distributed the light was and how high the PPFD ratings were. Not like over 1,000 in any spots, but it was anywhere from 1,000 to like 850 for, I'd say like 80% plus of the map. There was very
It's a
few
ton of
spots
light for
below.
a 4x210. That's the light I run in my 4x210. And yeah, it's been one of my most popular videos. And then I did the Grow Light Physics video with 2 of those and sort of showed what they could do in different coverage size spaces. So if anybody hasn't seen that yet, be sure to check out that video. It really gets into depth about grow light testing and how different grow lights sort of perform in different size spaces.
That's the beauty of that light, is if you want to expand from a 2x4 to a 4x4, you can get a second one and then put them both in there and they become even more efficient. I also wanted to say, for anybody who knows that they're going to go with at least a 4x4 or a 5x5, that Medic, is it Medic Grow Fold 8? Is that how it's said? So that light, when you dimmed it down to 80% and put it in a 4x4, was pretty insane. How, again,
You know,
spread, corner
a
to
lot
corner.
of lights that are 5x5 lights, because that's really designed to be a 5x5 light. And most of those lights are actually almost exactly 4x4 in terms of the physical size of them. And that's just because of sort of shipping container sizes and the box dimension limits of about 120 centimeters. So most lights, most of those LED bar arrays that are designed for 5x5s will fit in a 4x4 and will produce a really excellent spread of light at a dimmer setting like that. I usually don't test that. The reason I tested that with the Medigrow is just because it's so cheap that it actually makes sense to like buy that light for a 4x4. You know, most of the time you wouldn't want to spend like $1,000 buying a big light that could go in a 5x5 if all you have is a 4x4. So
Totally. Well, the other thing is,
that's
like
one
you
of
said,
the most impressive sort of par maps, and the value on that is just insane.
well, it being so cheap, I mean, I think it was in the 30 something cent range per, whatever it was, though. I don't know if it was per watt or per PPFD measurement, but that was compared to like Mars at like 60 cents, which I thought was actually fair, like up to $1 for some of the higher end lights. So the cost was so low.
You know, $1 is going to be expensive now. When we started this just a year ago, $1 was sort of like a threshold, an important threshold between sort of like an expensive light and a bargain light. But anymore, like, you know, 70 cents is starting to get expensive, 60 cents. And this is per micromole. So, and it's per micromole of usable ppf. So that's a measure of the amount of light that reaches the canopy. So if you take the amount of light that reaches the canopy and then divide it by the purchase cost, you get this efficiency that we're talking about here. Yeah, the Medigrow is like 36 cents per micromole. And, you know, 50 cents is an incredible price. A lot of the fixtures are coming in about 60 cents. And it used to be absolutely like $1 used to be sort of the threshold. So they've definitely come down in price significantly.
And despite not having the most fancy diodes, it still had like a 2.2 usable ppf. Or PPFD, I should say. And that is pretty high efficiency for the amount of diodes they slam in that light for the cost. It's unbelievable. What made sense to me was when you inquired with them, they said they're trying to gain market share, and companies will even sell lights at a loss. Like Mars did that for many, many years. They sold many lights at a loss. So because like in their case, they had the Chinese Communist government behind them. They could afford to lose money before they wanted to make money to gain a ton of market share. So they sent out free lights. They sold lights for less than even it costs to produce them in many cases to gain market share. Now, that kind of makes this like the golden era if you're going to buy a 4x4 or 5x5 light to get a Medic Fold 8. And I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get anything for saying this. I don't even have a discount code or anything. But the reason I say that is because when a company is trying to get market share, then they're literally like selling this at a loss, and they're giving you a much better quality product than you're even paying for. Like it's
they're subsidizing the cost. I mean, they're investing.
That also
subsidizing the cost
tells you though
the brand.
They're not just gonna cut and run, because if they're gonna sell shit at a loss in the first year, they want to hang around for a few years presumably, and they're gonna try and provide good customer service. I would hope, because if they're going to lose money up front, they're trying to get a bunch of customers and hopefully provide good service to them. So I guess that will be to see in the long run how they hold up.
I was really suspicious when I first got that light. I was like, this thing's too good to be true. And if you watch my video, you can sort of sense that mood, because I'm like, what's the catch here? What's sort of going on with this? But you know, it's been out for several months now. I know a ton of growers that have bought it and are using it, and it just performs really well. One of our prominent members, Hemp with Gigi, who also goes by Green Girl, just harvested a big grow under the one that I tested. Was really happy with it. So absolutely.
Cheers to Hemp with GG. They were in one of my live streams earlier this week. I'm going to pass it
Cool.
over to Spartan Grown. I know you won a science LED, and you also run a few different LEDs. You got some HLGs over there. I'm curious if since switching, or I guess not switching, but having both now for a little while, the quantum board and the bar style, have you noticed anything that the science does? It's not a traditional bar. I know it has the mixing spectrum. Have you played with that at all? Is there any big differences between the two?
So I can't answer your question too in depth because honestly, I haven't fucked with that light to its fullest potential like I could have, like I should, I guess I should say. I've got it set up as a normal light. I use it so it works like a regular timer comes on. The only bells and whistles that I'm really utilizing on that light right now is I do like this slow, gradual on time with the light and off time with the light, where it starts at maybe 0% and then gradually increases over a half hour to 100%. I do the same thing on both sides, and it's mostly to help the HVAC on those transitions to lights on and off, with that light gradually going out rather than just going from full blast to off. So I like it for that. As far as if I were to compare that light with the HLGs, I think for your money, the HLG is a little bit better. At the time, that light was more than the HLG. But for your added money, you do get extra features. You get the timer in the light, which at first I was in love with, but now I'm kind of starting to hate. I wish they were separate, because that timer isn't on the same timer as my other lights, right? It's got its own. So it's difficult to set that to exactly the same as my other timers. But as far as it's functional like a light, works great. I get good yields out of it, and I have no complaints there. And I can get the plants really close, which is something I'm height restricted. That's one of my what you call it, weak points would be height. I don't have a lot of height, so that helps me a lot there. I love the Raging Kush for that because it has optics on it, so it spreads the light more, and so it bounces light in all different angles, and you can get it a lot closer, like 8 inches. I can get it 8 inches away from the canopy, so that's pretty close. But
That sounds pretty cool. What's the
I'm an
HLG distance from the canopy that you run your HLGs?
I usually try to stay around 18 inches, but there has been times for sure when they've been closer, as close as 12 inches. Once you get closer than 12, there's not many cultivators that I've run that will really not struggle under the intensity after about 12 inches.
In the name of growing, though, 4 to 10 inches is a nice little assisted headroom when it comes to the light. So
Yeah.
I could see having more like in time, if and when the HLGs ever are less efficient enough and you want to go to a KL 2.0 or something, or even a different bar style, transitioning just for the additional headspace. Because I have cobs, like cob LEDs, which you can't run as close to the canopy if you're running them 100% as you would quantum board or even a bar style LED. But that being said, even with like a 5-foot space, I've made it work, and I really love the LED versus like a CMH or HPS. So I've seen a lot of really good stuff. I want to pass it over to Oklahoma there for a little bit because it looks like these guys have been token down. I was smoking on earlier, well, vaporizing technically, if anybody saw my live stream, some Garanimals from Aaron the Grower. So I want to say cheers to Brandon and Aaron over there. What are you guys smoking on?
We're smoking on this, I don't know, but it tastes like Jack. What is it?
Oh, it's the Limarilla times Mac V2.
It's a Jack flavor. It's really delicious. Nice, heady, cerebral high.
Brandon loves those for sure. Most of the stuff that I smoked with Brandon was pretty uplifting, except for Gorilla Glue. Other than the glue, everything was mostly heady. Good stuff, though.
All of his weed is fire. He actually has some of the Garanimals too. I hypothetically, allegedly brought some here.
Allegedly. Yeah, no, for sure. That's always fun stuff when you travel to share and let people sample the stuff. I had a question earlier in my live stream this morning. Somebody asked us to talk about reverse transpiration. And I was like, what is that? And they're basically talking about like spraying the plant. So like transpiration being like the plant is giving off water. This case being reverse transpiration, how to take advantage of something like a foliar spray to get nutrients into the leaf or anything like that. I'm curious if Doc or Brandon, anybody has thoughts on that.
Well, I do.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's sort of akin to a reverse transpiration. It's a little bit different. But yeah, you're talking about just foliar feeding, it sounds like.
Yeah, they kind of just popped into the. I'm loosely remembering a question, and I can't even remember who asked it, but in my live stream earlier, that's part of the problem with getting a little bit overly medicated on these Sundays. But yeah, they're just talking if we could talk about reverse transpiration, maybe what it is and maybe how it compares to foliaring. They mentioned, because I off the top of my head at the moment, I wasn't like super familiar with it, and I described what transpiration was then, and I kind of thought about it in reverse. So I'm curious, does a plant do that naturally? Does the plant have any process where it reverse transpires, where it's taking in moisture from the environment just naturally?
I feel like that, yeah, but like I feel like that name is so like unwieldy and unhelpful because
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard of it too.
Me
Like,
too.
spoken
I was
like
a little
that.
bit thrown off, and that's why I figured I'd bring it up with the panel and see if anybody else was more familiar with it.
Wish I knew. There's got to be a name
not the
for it. It's just
terminology.
it's just not probably not reverse. It could be though. It could be reverse
But like
transpiration.
if we're talking about like evapotranspiration, then that's like not really the reverse of that. Not
Right.
really.
Yeah, I mean, transpiration is just losing the water out of the stomata of the leaves. And the plant will control sort of how much water it tries to maintain or by opening and closing the stomata. Reverse transpiration, it doesn't work in exactly the opposite fashion because that process, sort of the force that's drawing the water out is the vapor pressure deficit in air. And you're not, I mean, a reverse transpiration would be like it's sort of having a vapor pressure surplus in the air that was pushing water. I mean, it doesn't sort of work like that. Water accumulates on the leaves and is then taken into the plant through
stomata too sometimes.
Yeah, through stomata too, also through just osmosis.
I always think of this bacteria that I think it's a pseudomonas, I think. But anyways, like, and how it gets into plants is that it resides on the surface of the leaves, and it can secrete a compound. I forget the name of it, but it triggers the stomata to open, and then like through what we're describing here, like through just like moisture being on the leaves or through the vapor pressure deficit, it just like gets into the stomata and gets into the xylem channels. So like, there you go. Like all of those defenses, all those chemical defenses and physical defenses doesn't matter. It had the key to that lock.
Like the abiotic factors of, I don't know if the humidity or like a lot of times people would say like, oh, when the lights go out, you foliar feed half an hour, 15 minutes or an hour after lights off, because that's when the stomata are most open. And I think there's that humidity spike causing the abiotic effect of like the humidity going up causes the plant to say it needs to open up its stomata, perhaps.
How does that optic
problematic at that time too because of the humidity situation? I mean, if you're spiking humidity into the dark period.
How does that optic foliar product work?
I'm not sure. I think it's really just a wetting agent, and if you use a wetting agent, it allows you to spray with the lights on, because when the stuff doesn't bead up, it doesn't get that magnification effect on the plant. When there's
I think there's some
wetting agent will help in a foliar feeding situation anyways, because it reduces the surface tension of the water, and that makes it easier to coat the leaves with the water. It makes it easier for the plant to uptake that water through the stomata.
But there's something
optic foliar actually dissolves the wax layer on the leaf itself to help the nutrients penetrate in, so it doesn't just slide off.
That's something else.
Yeah.
And we should also
not familiar with its mechanism. I'll say that.
Yeah, I knew there was something more to it.
They have it on their website. They've got it all on like a video, or not a video, but a graphical, like you're looking at a poster explaining it all.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's
like
pretty cool.
Plants tend to have like a waxy cuticle too. So like when you do foliar feeding, and this is sort of tangential, but like it's important to note that like I guess that's part of the like defenses of the plant, but also if there's other factors like what we're talking about here, like the sort of subtle dynamics of like water loss and gain and other sorts of small things like that. And if you do like apply like a high pH solution or even like some organic pesticide or even just a foliar feed, you can really kind of change that up. And maybe not always like for what would be the better, but it's very context dependent and kind of hard to track. But that's just one factor that's sort of ephemeral in IPM and other parts of cultivation.
I really like it for a little boost for nutrition. And you can spray it with lights on. So it's a quick fast. I don't think it's organically approved. So this would be a synthetic situation, but it's a fast way to get nutrition to the plant quickly. And it's like a broad, it's not even a 111. It's below 111, I believe, the NPK on it. So it's pretty low on the nutrient value.
I'm curious how many of the panelists really do a lot of like feeding through foliar means rather than sort of IPM practices, but specifically trying to do foliar feeding.
Brandon, I think
I
does,
do.
right? Yeah.
Because if you want to get something immediately to the plant, it's one way that you can do it. And a
Yeah.
really good example of this is going to be magnesium.
Yep.
I use Epsom salt or magnesium sulfate. And the reason is because magnesium, if it's high in, it's very soluble. And so if it's really high in soil, when it falls into solution, it'll usually block out calcium and potassium. So if you keep it a little bit low in soil, it'll help with the accumulation of the calcium and also potassium. And you can just do foliar applications with the potassium.
Do you do that into flower though, Brandon?
What's that?
Do you do that into flowering or do you stop at some point?
Yeah, I do it in the flowering.
Matthew, can you enlighten us, because you're our IPM specialist and you might know a little bit more about this at least than myself. It says shift 3.9% ethifon, and it's showing the active ingredients. I'm on there. I pulled up the MSDS material safety data sheet, and this is from the US EPA pesticide product label, describing the product that's labeled ABN optic foliar.
You're curious if I'm like familiar with the compound?
Yeah, I don't know if this is something that you've heard of. It says pesticide at the top. So this is like a Washington State Environmental Protection Agency. I was just curious if you'd ever heard of it or if this is something you're familiar with. It says the agency is in receipt of application of pesticide number. It might just be this product specifically, so it might not be something that you've been familiar with. I'm just curious.
I'm not super familiar with it, to be honest, but a cursory Google search brings up a fact sheet from the US EPA that says it's a plant growth regulator. I don't know if that's like in the same context that we use it, or you know how legal and other sorts of terms can be like official speak and all that, but it is epa.gov, this website.
For use on cucumber, squash, pumpkin hybrid seed for inducing flowering. Oh, this is the Switch product, I think, actually. They have multiple, so this might be a different, because they have multiple.
They had to change their name from Switch to Shift, I think. There's some labeling issue.
Oh, okay. But this might be a different product than just their.
Yeah, that was what used to be called Switch. It used to be called Switch, but now it's just called Shift, I think. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, but this is, like I said, just straight off the EPA website, and it says for inducing flowering of ornamental plants, for reducing height of potted daffodils and stem topple, increasing lateral branching in ornamental. So it definitely sounds like a plant growth regulator.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so one of the things about plant growth regulators too is that in food production and even in like a lot of ornamental crop productions, they're not legal to use.
I know one that's notable in the cannabis space that was used for a while. It's called Paclo.
Paclobutanil. Yeah,
Paclobutanil. It's a carcinogen, to my knowledge. If it's smoked and ingested, it's carcinogenic, meaning cancer-causing, which is no bueno. And I think there's also been like birth defects, allegedly, in correspondence to the consumption of products that have that. So I'm there with Brandon that some of the PGRs definitely might have problematic side effects. I'm not familiar with the optic foliar one, but there are also like tricantanol that comes from like alfalfa is a plant growth regulator, and it's natural. And kelp also, I believe, has some plant growth regulators in there.
Tricantanol is one of them. And then there's also things like gibberellins.
Jasmonic.
Yeah, there's some minor phytohormones that act as plant stimulants, but I don't know if they're really in high enough quantity realistically to I mean, I haven't seen any type of data to correlate like, oh, this has this thing and this is why it's happening. Like, this is why my plants are so bushy, as opposed to, oh no, I just really like prune my plants and like maintain them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if can everybody hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. We weren't sure. Next one.
Hit it.
All right. I think this one was the fritter.
Yeah, this is the apple fritter.
Good stuff, y'all. Sorry I had to step away. My battery died over here. I'm actually just vaping. I should be using some flour, but I'm not in a good spot to be doing that. Looks like and over there, Spartan Grown. I saw you toking a little bit earlier. I don't know if you've got anything rolled up or you're smoking over there, but what were you smoking on earlier?
I haven't smoked in 2 days, bro. I've had
okay.
I've had a
I'm
chest
tripping.
cold. So yeah, I had a chest cold. So I've been just eating RSO instead. So I'm hoping not. It's really hard. I keep looking over at the bong and I want to hit it so bad right now, but I'm trying to be good.
RSO is great stuff. Aaron the Grower makes some good RSO. He had some of the highest CBN and his test results of any I've seen actually, which is pretty cool.
Aaron hooked me up, man. What a good person, man, for sure. I remember that. And I don't forget. So.
Well, you're all welcome, man. And if if anybody needs RSO, you could allegedly hit me up and allegedly let's work together. But Brandon did hook me up with this from his company, Black Label Organics, this blue Romulan solventless activated live rosin RSO.
Whoa.
They call that like SHO sometimes, I think. Solventless
Yeah,
oil.
Yeah, full spectrum.
So I figured
it's all solventless and organic.
Put this in my mouth while I'm on air.
All of it. Get it?
Dude, I saw somebody eat a gram. It was modern genetics on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle. Dude is like, I've never taken RSO out before, so I'm just gonna take the whole gram, and fucking ate it. And he got real fucked up. He was partying with them though. I was surprised. He stayed up much longer than I was expecting.
My partner's father-in-law took a whole half gram of this stuff, and he was asleep for 2 days.
I take RSO daily, so
I mean, can you OD if you were to take the whole thing by accident?
No, you're not gonna OD. You'll get a good nap. A cannabis overdose is a great sleep usually, or paranoia for some people.
Yeah, I can eat a gram.
Yeah, more so the latter of those two, I think, for some people.
The paranoia is actually problematic because it creates hospitalizations. So if you have cannabis, no, it's not going to kill you. You're actually just having a panic attack, not a heart attack. So breathe, drink some water, and calm the fuck down because it's not going to kill you. It's never killed anybody ever, unless it was spiked with something else, which is usually what people start thinking about. That's why you should grow your own and get it from a good source. Most people these days can do that though.
Yeah.
Typically you panic so much that your body is so worked out that you end up passing out because you've exasperated it for so long.
Call the cops.
I'm to the point to where I don't think I could get. I mean, when I take RSO, I've taken a gram before, so about a half gram is about as high as I'm going to get. Anything I eat past a half a gram, it just extends that high, right? So if I ate the gram, I was scared. I was a little scared. I was like, man, I wonder what's going to be if I take double what I normally take. I took it anyway, just for the hell of it, and just to see. And it just was the normal high, just a little bit longer, or not a little bit, a lot longer.
A lot longer, yeah. I was gonna say sometimes I've been high for over 24 hours off high edible doses or big RSO doses. I'm with you, Spartan, where even with like smoking, whether it's dabs or flower, I get to a point, and then if I could smoke 10, 15 more bowls, I won't get any higher. I'll just stay high for a longer period of time, potentially. And that's like even potentially with flower. Dabs and stuff, like I'll get to that point, and then like the more you take, the longer it tends to last, because those seem to be a little more short-lived for me. But I'm curious if anybody else has that experience with concentrate being a little bit shorter effect than a flower.
I definitely noticed that. Dabs are nice, but I don't know. I can keep dabbing and get higher and higher and then just get a headache. So if I get too high on dabs, I just get a headache, and it goes away fast, way faster than even flower for me. It's probably the fastest thing that goes away. That or distillate, maybe. Both of those go pretty fast, go away fast.
Yeah, distillate's like straight up, straight down. And like, if you don't, in my opinion, if you don't have terpenes, after a while, if you're just like hitting a disty pen straight, like 99.9%, I've had those in the past, like when that was like kind of the hot thing and newer on the market. And like, I don't even think you can get any sort of effect after a while. You just become THC tolerant. Like it's so pure THC that you just get used to that effect. And like you'll actually feel higher by like not using it in some instances than continuing to puff on those things. And at least in my experience, but distillate's not something that I would recommend unless somebody had a very specific medical ailment for it. It helps glaucoma, so there's that, and definitely some other things. But the American one, you've been quiet over there. What you toking on?
I'm talking a little everything. I had some of the time rec and some of that proprietary. But I was gonna say, yeah, I think the concentrates, well, not water hash, but dabs and stuff. It does seem like it's a lot more quicker, potent, like straight off, and it fades away quicker usually. But I bet you if people did more mature material, it'd probably be a little longer lasting.
That's maybe how the bubble hash or temple ball tends to have the longer lasting effect, because my hash, like bubble hash, tends to hit me as long or even longer than flower sometimes. And I'm wondering if maybe that's like something in the plant material, maybe the chlorophyll or like lipids or waxes or fats that aren't like squeezed out like when you press it to rosin.
If it's age that you're considering, it's got to be something to do with CBN.
At least a little bit. Frenchie's doing some really good testing right now where he tested a temple ball day 1 of when it was pressed, and he's doing like 1 week, 2 weeks, like a month, 3 months, 5 months, and he's going to see like how much hashishine is in there, how much of which terpenes are in there. It's kind of cool. They like go up and down and some change. It'll be like 2.2. It'll be like half of like 0.5 of its pinene, and then there will be 0.0 pinene, and then like the next one it'll be like 0.2 pinene. It's like really weird to see the same sample of hash getting different terpene results. But
I chalk that up to the lab. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's
look
funky.
The labs, they can't be as consistent as people would like to think. I don't think that it's possible.
Well, what's the margin of error on their work?
Dude, the margin of error, in my opinion, is so big.
And there's incentive for the lab to give Frenchie Cannoli the results he wants to see. They want to be the lab that Frenchie uses. I promise.
I'm just talking about labs in general, man, because I see wild swings all over the board, and it's like, dude, I do the exact same thing all the time. I have just a data sheet that I'm looking at, going, okay, it needs this, whatever. And I'm testing, and you could all do the same exact variety, going the same amount of time, doing the same thing, same conditions. And you'll be like, oh man, it can be frustrating sometimes because it's like when you want to try.
And the lab is spitting out different results.
Oh,
dude,
different terpenes. Even
there was
like,
a lab.
What the fuck? Like, dude, I know this isn't the fucking terpene profile for this shit. Like,
there's a lab that got caught falsifying THC in Northern California.
One.
Yeah,
More than one.
Several
That I know
lost
of.
their permit for that.
And they're actually still functioning, believe it or not. They fired that guy, and they're just like, whatever, we're just gonna keep going with the same equipment. I mean, they clean the equipment, but like there's funky shit going on, and everybody thinks this regulation stuff is good. And in some cases it is, but in some cases it just winds up with corruption.
I
think it's time.
If you had when you go to calibrate your scale, you have a 500 gram weight. That 500 gram weight never changes. It's always consistent, right? So you can go and take that and calibrate anybody's scale to that 500 grams. It doesn't exactly work with the equipment that they use. Like, there's so much margin of error when they're doing all different types of samples. I mean, oh man, it's
time for Brandon and Aaron's lab.
No,
Brandon's got the equipment. Shit. My question is, do you think it's really just nefarious, or is there a possibility that it's like dirty lab equipment?
It's both.
It's a little bit both.
Standard.
Also,
Yeah.
it's a plant. It's a live plant.
Some
So
are
even if you have the
nefarious,
same
dude.
temperature, same RH,
Yeah.
same everything, same feed, the moon cycle is different. The pressure, you have high and low pressure fronts. You have different things like that are changing that you're not documenting, that do change from summer versus winter, whether you're in Oklahoma or California.
Sure,
Even
season's
multiple
different.
different summers, right? Like,
But
I mean,
but
if
this
we're gonna,
guy's environment is so dialed in and controlled. And when he sees different, I don't know if you're talking about Oklahoma or California.
Dude, my ankle
Oh,
fucking
all over.
hurts when there's a low pressure front. I'm not a high expensive device, but my body can detect when there's high and low pressure changes.
You're
right?
expensive
So
to
the
us.
plants
Yes, you're
can
very
detect it
expensive.
too. If I feel it, I believe they can feel it, and that's going to make a difference potentially in the. So I just don't think it's like to say I did the same inputs each time, same temperature, same soil, all the lab testing. It might turn out different. The lab might have tested it perfectly, and there might have a different terpene profile because
well,
this
you
run
can
it
get
got more
different
high pressure
expressions
or
in
low
a
pressure.
Do you
plant.
think a drastic difference though? I don't know.
Potentially, or maybe the lab's
Yeah,
not
dude, I'm
screening
talking
Yeah.
about
well
multiple
enough.
terpene profile. I see it all the fucking time. I see why, dude.
But
I
if
saw-
terpenes are so
had my death breath.
volatile,
I had
doesn't
the
it
death
make
breath
sense
that
that there
tested
would
at
be?
Spartan's
29.
got his hand up real quick. Let's let Spartan jump in here.
In my opinion, I think it's more logistics. So two things. One is what happens to it when it leaves your facility. For us, the person who tests it, we're just hoping that they've got the AC cranked, and you know what I mean. They're treating it right. But depending on who you have coming to do your test, they could give no fucks. They could go stop at go get fucking lunch for an hour and then fucking get back to the. So I think the differences we're seeing more is the logistics of. I really wish they allowed in-house testing. You know what I mean? Obviously, that's a. I guess that there'd be probably people would not think that's independent. So, but
You
I
could
mean,
do third-party verifications.
No, I
though.
certainly wouldn't.
yeah, I mean, there has to be, this ridiculousness of not letting us transport this like a regular commodity is stupid. If they allowed us to bring, our batch to them or something, or if they pulled the samples at the end user, so if they pulled it at where it was the point of sale, that would be great, because when we send our bulk shipments to the point of sale, that's in a refrigerated truck, so it's controlled. But these tests aren't in that. The tests aren't.
In-house testing would be good for Brandon to know what his plants are doing. Like, he doesn't have to trust somebody else, and then when he has to get it double tested by an independent party, he could check their stuff too as well. So that might be helpful, just so you really know. Like,
I don't know.
saying,
I don't know if you could make that point though. I don't know if doing it yourself means that you know for sure.
Right.
A man with two watches doesn't know what time it is after all.
This is the most frustrating thing though, right? Because the end result for my data collection should be the tests, and I should be getting accurate data, just like I do get accurate data on my soil and my tissue testing. And I need that to be able to say, hey, if I do this and I do this, what happens? But it's like, I don't know. I can't get even a consistent test from
you won't
the same lab on the same variety,
Are you allowed to submit your own samples? Are you allowed to take a sample into the lab yourself and have it tested?
You have to have I can personally deliver it.
Transporter license though.
You have to have transport license out here, which my partner has.
Just to take one nug, you have to have a transport license. Like
but they won't test. They won't test home grow like they do in California. Like in California, I could go take weed that I grew at home and go get that shit tested.
You can do that here too. That's why I was saying.
You can't do that here in Oklahoma. You have to have a license.
So it's something like that I would attack. I would attack that dumb rule. Why the hell wouldn't you want to be able to test your own? Because what I was to suggest is what we have done too in the past. If we thought a lab was giving us some funky results, we could take a sample.
If they really cared about health and safety, they would let home growers test their meds. But it's not about health and safety. It's about and that's why I don't fucking trust the results. I had a death breath test at 29%. Oh, that looks fucking great on paper, but I know that's not what it fucking is, dude. The shit usually tests around 20, maybe 21%.
Right. That's what I was going to say. If you don't know what's increasing the terpenes, or if you're not getting that data, you won't know. Like, just for instance, like if you add this is not true, but if you add magnesium, Epsom salt, it'll increase the terpenes. But if the test you're getting are bogus, you can't make any kind of judgments as to what inputs would help. Whatever.
My question is it possible that one top cola on a plant over on this side of the room is 29% THC and one is 25 in a different part of the room? or 20 or 21.
That's sort of where I'm getting at it too. Like we're
Yeah.
talking
I
about
think
such
that's
an
totally possible.
talking about such an ephemeral subject like terpenes, and we already know that they volatilize all the time. And
Then
you
we're
know what I
talking
mean?
about a
Like
different
this is why
way.
this
We're
is why
talking about
research this is why
a
research
different
is
type
not this is why research is not always reproducible, right? Like
Everything that we have mentioned
this is
is
trivial.
true. All of it is true.
Yeah.
There are labs that are nefarious. There are labs that are making accidental mistakes, and there are guys paying off labs, and there are, it's all happening. And there's accidents, and then there's variation within the canopy, just like we've all, I think it's all true.
I'm curious what our guest has to say about this. Max, are you in a place that has a legal market, and what is the test result scene like over there? Do you believe in the testing? Do you see any validity behind it? And how do you feel about this conversation?
Well, yeah, there is no testing here. Technically, I wouldn't call it a legal market either. I mean, I'm very close to Michigan and Illinois, just to put it on a map somewhere. But I have nothing to do with testing. I mean, I just grow my own weed because I don't trust the other reasons to get medicine over here, unless I'm gonna drive 5 hours to Michigan. But I mean, I have done that too, and I have I rather know who my grower is and know what they're doing instead of trying to trust even in California or Michigan, trust some test results. I mean, I still rather just go with homegrown personally.
Hear, hear. Cheers to that. Shit. This is what this home podcast is kind of all about. It's all of us learning how to grow our own at home and not really having to worry about the testing. Personally, I haven't gotten any of my fucking homegrown tested, and I know it all does the job at the end of the day. It's good medicine. It's clean. I know what was put on it and what wasn't put on it. So I think a lot of people can hang their hat on that at the end of the day. It is cool to see the results, though, and it's an interesting conversation, at least for me, having seen them for so long and watched them kind of change. Like mid 20s was really good for a while, then high 20s was really good, and then like 30% or you got a 30% THC. Now there's stuff in California that is testing over 40%. I saw the highest I've ever seen was 45% total cannabinoids, 42% THC, and I actually tried a sample of it, and it wasn't the most potent stuff that I've ever tried. So I think that sometimes the whatever you look at on the test results doesn't necessarily show up on the smoke. So it's worth sampling the stuff in spite of some of the high or even low test results in some occasions. So it's an interesting conversation. I'm curious, Brandon, you told me back a while ago that you guys had your own like HPLC or GC, like gas chromatograph or something like that at your thing. Is that still the case? Are you working with that guy with all the lab equipment still?
No, we have a PCR machine, and then we also have mycology and bacterial incubators, but they've never used them for anything over at the facility.
Oh, okay, I see. There's one thing that I wanted to bring up too about testing is most testing that's for legal markets destroys the sample. So like that bud that might have tested 29%, you're never going to get it back because they crushed it or burned it. Like HPLC,
Right.
it burns it to give you the sample. It literally heats it up, so it destroys the sample. Then the HPLC, which is like I think it's high pressure liquid chromatography. It literally runs it through a series of liquids that would make it unusable at the end. So you don't actually get to consume the product that was tested. So like we talked about earlier, if it's possible for one bud to test different than another bud, which I think a lot of us can believe in, because if you smoked a top cola versus the bottom cola before, you'll notice some pretty obvious differences in those occasions. So testing is kind of all over the place. And the one that doesn't destroy it, I don't know if it has the same accuracy. There's this little device where you put the bud in a thing and it like scans it, and it's gotten more and more accurate. They test it comparing it with the HPLC and gas chromatograph as well, but it's getting like within 1% of the THC and CBD, but they can't test for terpenes on there. I'm trying to think of the name. If anybody in the chat knows, let me know. It's green and white. I can't think of the name.
I've seen a similar device, and I am also blanking on the name too.
I've seen it too. I've seen it in action. I actually tested some weed with it at, I think it was like a cannabis.
One of the cups. Yeah.
Maybe it was an Emerald Cup.
Some people prefer their nose. The nose, sometimes at least.
And the PCR test is generally for sex testing, right, Rust? Brandon?
Yeah, and it's also used for
testing for viruses and testing DNA, different. It's for
Oh
replication.
yeah, that's right.
It's a replicate.
Replication.
It's a
Yep,
basically it's a replication machine.
Yeah.
To replicate.
Is it a PCR or a qPCR? That's not supposed to be a gotcha question. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure actually. It's got 98 slots on it, and it's got all the little components.
The guy has most of the answers.
Yeah,
99%.
I'm, again, I'm not super familiar with the types of machinery. I'm not a geneticist.
That's cool though.
It is pretty cool. I've seen some really cool kits that people can have, like that are portable, and you could like take them out into the Amazon or something, do some on-site sequencing. I mean, as long as you have like the reagents and all that jazz.
The testing thing was called a Gemma cert, GEMMACERT. And they're about $2,000 for the little device. And
how does
there's
it
another
work?
one. It actually scans the bud. I think that they used a smart algorithm, computer learning, to take samples of buds that they had cross references of HPLC and gas chromatograph. So they'd say, this looks like a bud that's 20%. I could be wrong on that. I know it goes in, you put it on like a toothpick basically, and then it goes in this little thing that's got like a gold backing. It slips down into a little device, and then it gives you the readout. Like I said, it's just cannabinoids, THC and CBD. Adam from 2020 Mendocino used it in his breeding project to test. He had like 5 males, and they were all pretty similar. He wanted to pick between them, and it was like 0.5 THC, 0.5 THC, 0.7 THC, and then one was like 5% THC. So he's like, holy shit, this one's like way higher than all the rest of them, so I'm going to try that one. And he bred with it, and he was really happy with that line. So it was a pretty cool usage of it in the field for breeding. But I don't necessarily think that too many people would get as similarly good of a use. There's a grower that I like up in Canada, Urban Remo, of Remo Nutrients. He's got a pretty cool YouTube channel. I'm sure a lot of people here are already familiar with him. He used to have like Testing Wednesday or something, where he's got some device. It's like a home HPLC where they go through the liquids and like shake it up, and it's supposedly very accurate, and they're coming out with terpenes on that soon. So it's cool to see. Other stuff like Purple Scientific, I've heard some questionable results of how accurate the testing can be, but definitely feel like we've beat the testing drum for quite a while, and that's probably mostly my fault as the host, but I think we could switch it up a little bit and talk about what we're growing. Max, what do you got going on in your garden right now?
Right now, actually, I have a couple of Ophelia from the American one going, and I got one New England rock candy from Kyle, and then I have a couple of runts plants from Create Genetics and some other slime god from Firebuds. All of them are photo period, and I haven't seen any any intersex traits yet, so that's good. I'm only in week 4, but I mean, instead of testing and like me worrying about testing, I just try and go for good genetics pretty much. Every time I get genetics from a friend and they say it's good, I have never had a complaint about it. So I got genetics from just about everybody. I got genetics from Jack, Kyle, the American one, Russ Brandon now. And I mean, that's just the stuff that stays in my garden. I listen to you guys every week, and I love your guys' choices. So
You're 4 weeks in veg or 4 weeks in flower?
Oh, I'm 4 weeks in flower. Actually, tomorrow will be 4 weeks.
Well, I miss growing the New England rock candy. How's that plant turning out for you?
I love that plant. Every time I've ran the New England rock candy, last time I ran the diesel rock candy, I just get huge colas. I mean, I had one plant that had over 1.5 pounds, of dry weight, the diesel rock candy in my 4x4. And yeah, I mean, it just grows like crazy. It stacks really good, and it's super frosty. So, I mean, literally, I've left that plant just in the back of my tent, and it's just doing amazing. I never really have to worry about it.
Cool. Yeah, mine was actually a little finicky, but it produced some of my favorite smoke, so I didn't mind in the end. But yeah, growing it was a little bit more finicky than some other plants. I remember that. It sounds like yours is a little bit more cooperative.
Yeah, no, I haven't had any problems. And I mean, I'm using the Cocoa for Cannabis watering guide with the flora nutrients, the
Oh,
Flora
cool.
series. So I mean, yeah, I go off, what you guys say, and I have had no issues in my year and a half of growing. So
Cool.
That's
Happy
awesome.
to hear it, man.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. There is a small variable of phenos with the New England raw candy, but like at the end of the day, whatever cannabinoid profile, and yet you would think that I would have already sent something to the labs. It's extremely beneficial to all smokers, and I'm just like so happy that I have the main mother, and like even right now, like I have her, and I had like an issue with environmental conditions with in my own place, and like she is just always still praying no matter what I do, and she's just a gift, man. So I do have a bunch of crosses coming up with Green Bodie, Brendan. Shout out to Brendan and a couple other people. But yeah, it's just such a good smoke, man. And I need to come back with some profiles from her, but she's just a wicked good smoke, man, and a good crosser. She's all around really good.
One of the things that I like to make sure is that everything is like different when it comes to the flavors. So you can get a little bit of everything.
Dude, everything that we've sparked up, well, one of these was my flavor, but everything that we sparked up here has a completely unique flavor profile. It's unbelievable.
That's the key.
That's really what it's all about. Smiley's Garden over in Michigan has a similar little stable of like, he gave me some samples, and a lot of them are all just really distinct and unique, different, like from like a raspberries to like an OG. You got like a really fruity to a really gassy to like a cherry and a Tuscadero and some of the other stuff. And it's cool. Brandon, I can't wait to get out to Oklahoma and try some of your stuff. When you were here, I think I just got to try the Death Breath, Limarilla, and Gorilla Glue, but they're all really fire for sure.
And I'm still using all that stuff because I think this is Death Breath?
Yeah.
That's what we're smoking on right now.
That's some good shit. I think that's some of Matthew's favorite, I think.
That's right. I was going to comment exactly that because I like to do that every time you mention it. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, dude, it's really popular out here. We are going to be cultivating it continuously because it's in a really high demand. Everybody likes it and it sells real well. So everything sells real well, though. I told my partner that he's such a good salesman, he should start a distribution company and we can go distribute organic cannabis all over the place.
Hey, Brendan, I got a question, only because like you're definitely into it. So I've been seeing some people that I have some relationships with that they've all been going to Oklahoma. I mean, when it comes to getting a cultivation license, do you need to be a resident of that state, or can you just you
can be a non-resident and own 25% of a business. So what I ended up having to do, sorry to steal this from you.
Well, and how long do you need to be a resident in order to obtain that license?
And second question, follow-up question, do you have to domicile there?
Yes.
Yes, you have to have proof of domicile. And
which means what?
2 years.
You have to have an address.
You live there.
Or
a bill. There's like a list of stuff to prove it, but it's 2 consecutive most recent years or 5 years in the last 25. It's weird, but that's how they do it. So I've been basically partnering up with a friend that I have out here, and he's going to own 75% of the business. I'm going to teach him how to grow, and he's going to.
So someone needs at least 2 years of a permanent address in Oklahoma, correct?
To own 75% of the business. Yeah. You have to own 75% of the business as the resident. Am I saying that correctly?
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
So I will have 2 years in November this year.
Rad.
So let's say I know someone that lives there that's been there for their whole life. Can I contact them and they're completely eligible? I would assume, obviously.
Oh,
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's $2,500, unlimited canopy.
Unlimited canopy. Cha-ching. Right. Well,
Yeah.
damn. All right. Well, yeah.
I mean, you see us here, right? So,
look, I'll tell you what.
I know. Why am I in Massachusetts right now?
Everybody who's like, holy shit, like it caught on. But I'm so glad that I got here like previously because
just got moving.
Land is expensive now. It's crazy.
It's getting there. Yeah. I actually am going to look at some property tomorrow afternoon. Yep. We'll see.
So do you think there'll be a surplus of ganja in Oklahoma anytime soon or no?
I think what will happen is Oklahoma will be the first state to allow out-of-state
exportation. Yeah.
We already have legislation set up to be the first. Basically, there's legislation in place. And it's not much. It's just basic language like when it happens, this is how it goes down.
Right, but other states have to accept it too.
Yeah, so I think Oregon is in line to do some interstate business. There's a couple states.
Brendan and Aaron, I have a question. So let's say you're an outsider, which is what you probably don't want, but it's all love, and you want to get involved in that industry.
Max, you're not on mute. Are you going to show off the garden there?
So
I was gonna try.
how do I? Let's say I want to come there and just like vibe with y'all and like have my own like a garden somewhere. Like, do I have to find somebody that is a resident of that establishment in Oklahoma?
Yes, you just set up like a operating agreement or a consulting agreement, something like that. And
but with somebody that's lived there already, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Right,
like my partner, he's lived in Oklahoma for 10 years. So they already had the land, him and his brother, because they planned on starting a cannabis business. And it was just about putting together the right team, which was me, them, and my old partner.
Right. Good choice.
It's just all bootstrapped, like most of it is out here. Don't get me wrong. There's some people that came in with some investment money, millions of dollars. And there's some big guys out there, but I don't necessarily think they're throwing down like some of these smaller guys, because these smaller mom and pop shops are pumping out way better quality weed than they can. So
can I tell a story about that?
Sure.
When we're done with this section.
Well, I have one last question. So are you as a facility, are you banking on relying that you can find dispensaries that can that can sell the amazing product that you have? Is that basically how that works?
Well, I don't have a problem getting rid of the weed.
Right.
I mean, my partner whips everything hella quick, but I think what it really comes down to is just making sure that you have a good quality product and that, you got a proper team in place. You got to be willing to pound the pavement when it comes to sales, just like any good salesman, right? There's people that slang phones, right? And there's some people that suck at it, and there's some people that are fucking great at it.
Right.
Just like slanging weed, like some people are good at slanging weed. It's just if you're a people person and you have personality and you can vibe with anybody and,
Yeah, you're in. Right, I get it.
Good weed sells itself too. Not gonna bullshit there. I mean, I've never seen good weed have a hard time moving.
Well, yeah, if you're personable and you have good shit, it's gonna go. Right. You know what I mean?
So speaking of people who aren't like maybe doing things for all the right reasons or that sort of a thing, I had a friend who told me a story of a group up in like Central California that basically they planted like 4 or maybe 3 months ago. And they had everything in like a greenhouse in like the hot desert running on generators. And they thought they'd have plants like flowering like in August or something. And anyways, I might be getting the times mixed up, but there was no possible way. I think I told the part of the story already. There's no possible way they're going to hit this deadline. And all their generators failed. And now they're scrambling to do something about it while everything just dies. And it's just like, I see that. And I see that so often. And I'm sure plenty of people in the chat and plenty of people here on the panel have at least heard of many situations like this. And it's just poor planning on the part of people getting into it. And the people who really care and are passionate. I mean, sure, it's not the only prerequisite, but you do tend to run into less of that sort of thing, I feel like. At least I can tell when I'm working with people. I was just up in LA, actually. I was working with these people. They had great security measures. I could tell because when I pulled in, they had a guy come out like 30 seconds later being like, hey, can I help you? And it just showed me that they had people who are on top of it. Of course, that's not cultivation per se, but that also bled through into their SOPs for IPM and that kind of a thing. So I just want to say, Brandon and Aaron, it's not surprising to me that you're killing it, because I guess you could say I'm impressed but not surprised.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story where a farmer was doing hemp and he killed it. He had tons and tons of really good plants, but he never planned for the harvest. And I guess someone talked him into using a combine and just like bundling up wet, and it all just turned into shit. And the guy like offed himself. So planning is, you gotta know.
Started a compost company, like a hemp based.
Right. I don't know how much material he had, but yeah, that's like said part of reality. And when when people put millions and millions of dollars into something and it doesn't turn out right, it's different than, renovating your basement or something like that, so there's a lot of factors involved. And yeah, when you get too big, I think that's when things can go wrong too.
Even if you're not millions of dollars in, if it's your life savings, if it's everything you've ever worked for, you're expecting, not only that, like you have this sort of falsehood that this green rush is going to supply everything you've ever needed. You've got people hyping you up that got you to invest all that money, saying you're going to yield this amount, CBD selling for this much a pound, we're going to extract it, we're going to sell it as salves, bombs, this and that. It's the next hottest fucking thing since sliced bread. So you're hyped as fuck all season long, watching it grow. Everything's going great. And then, like you said, you get some guy to come combine, harvest it, bale it up. They might have even still thought, oh, this is all going to go good. And until they cut into it and found out that it was rotten, the whole entire experience leading up to that, they thought everything was going to go good. And then just to find out at that last moment, it's really tough. Farming in general actually has, unfortunately, a high rate of people taking their own lives, whether it's soybean farming or corn.
Higher than the military.
Yeah, it's extremely high. And the average age of a farmer is like, I want to say like between 53 and 63. So there's not enough people getting into it. I think the new wave of cannabis coming around, teaching people to grow their own food, is so pivotal and important, because it's inevitably going to get people to start farming not just hemp, but also other food more regeneratively. So I think we're very lucky to have cannabis for all the positive impact it's making in Oklahoma and elsewhere.
Yeah, so kill it, you guys, while you can. Well, all those extrinsic factors aren't creeping up to change things around.
Aaron is getting his property set up. So
yes, he is.
He's gonna be out here for a week and a half or so, and then he's got to go back to California and
laying all the electrical infrastructure while I'm out here. I got 600 amp service, so.
I see you got a generator. Is that a generator?
Yeah, I saw that on Instagram.
That's not a generator.
What is
that?
That's
a transformer. That's a 600 amp transformer. So that brings power to my property, and I'll wire 3 200 amp panels. So if you know anything about, like, your house might have like a 60 amp service or maybe 150 amp service, but I'm going to have 600 amps. So I'll be able to like have a lot of flexibility with my power. So my first thing I'm gonna do is set up an indoor grow, and that's like what the point of this trip is, to set up the power for that. And then I have a crop in California. I should be able to move out here by next year.
Very cool.
Thanks, Matt.
Still got to go boar hunting though.
Dude, come get them. My buddy was telling me they were driving down the road, and it was like Walking Dead. There were so many in the street. They couldn't even get it through. They had to like not drive down that road.
I got to take you on those helicopter rides where they hunt boar from the helicopter. That is so.
You do
one of my bucket. That's one of my bucket. Oh, really? You think that's that. Oh, okay. Let's do that. I thought you were being. My father actually asked me recently that we should go shooting more often. And for those who know, in California, that's a little bit more difficult to do for a bunch of other reasons. So
you are always welcome, Matt. You and your father.
We got to go.
Hell yeah. I saw coyote prints on my property, actually. So definitely got to have a rifle and a shotgun.
I was gonna say shotgun. I was just looking. I watch a YouTube channel that has a whole bunch of different 12 gauge shotgun slugs. I can't pronounce the name of it because it's ridiculously named, but it's cool to see all the different stuff. We're getting pretty far out into left field, though.
Sure.
It's
Shout
interesting
out to
stuff
New
for
Hampshire.
sure.
I'm about to buy a 30-06.
There you go, man. I know people that are turning their stimulus checks into firearms, which is a pretty interesting way to
As long
spend that
as
money.
long as you don't have a felony in New Hampshire, if you walk in, I'm sorry to go off topic, but if you walk in and you have a felony, you can buy anything you want and walk out and then go home. It's an amazing place to live. Live free or die.
Live free or die. That's the
Amen,
best
brother.
motto ever.
Hell yeah.
New Hampshire, that's the New Hampshire motto, man. That's where I'm from. That's what's up.
Followed closely by "Don't tread on me."
Right. Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah.
But literally, you can, like Brendan, you can, or any of y'all, you can walk in with some cash. Yeah, I want the AR-15. As long as you don't have depending on if you have a felony or not, you can just walk out in 10 minutes and just leave and go home. That's it.
Good.
But getting back on the grow topic, I'm curious to hear what Spartan Grown's growing over there.
Oh man, let me see. I've got in flower right now. I have one of your velvet punches, the number 1 pheno that I saved. Well, I didn't. That's the last one of them. I'm gonna. I've got more seeds of that, so I might revisit it. But I still got the number 1 going in there, and that's close to harvest, probably about a week or so. And then in my, I've got 3 of the cross that I made, which was I'm calling Bliss Bud right now. It's gonna probably be a ongoing, lifelong project. It's just my plan for that is I'm just trying to make really uplifting happy weed. So every time I run across that and I get a male when I'm growing other stuff, I'll smash it into that and just keep bringing the uplifting. I don't even care about the terps. I just want the high. I'm concentrating on the high on that one. So I've got 3 phenos of that, and that right now is just sour diesel times a pineapple Thai cross. What was the other thing? Pineapple Thai crossed with sour strawberry. So one side is pineapple Thai, sour strawberry. The other side is sour D. And then I have a Spartan glue going in there too. And then outside, I've got an autoflower from 2020 Mendocino that hasn't been released yet, but they used my snow cane to make it, and they call it Sparkle Face, I think is the name they called it. So I have one of those outside, and I have one of those inside going to see what that's about. And then probably this week I'll be popping some of Brandon's gear. I have the Mac 2 crossed with the Limerilla, I believe. And then I also have some Snow Cane version 2 from 2020. I'm going to probably pop one of those because they're feminized. My plan with those is just to pop one of those and run them against my Snow Cane cut that I keep from the version 1s. And just keep popping, go through that whole pack and see if I can find one better than my cut. And if I can, I'll replace it.
I think I sent you Limerilla times Mac V2.
Yes.
That's what you guys were just smoking on before that last Death Breath joint. You were smoking on that cross.
And, you're saying that it tasted like Jack.
There's some really interesting stuff in there. There's one that like there you'll either get like Limerilla terps with like this weird type of basil-y smell in it, and then there's the one that's like kind of more like the Jack a little bit.
Spartan, I had to ask on the Velvet Punch because you're one of my testers, and this is your second time running a pheno that you felt worthy enough to run twice. So did you notice any changes from the first run to the second run as far as like the aroma or stretch or any of those different quality factors?
No, I think it's run pretty much exactly the same as the first time. And the one thing I'll say on this pheno and what made it stand out from the other phenos is this one was just way frostier. And it was the one that I kept calling the one that reminded me of cookies because it was smaller nugs, but it just so frosty. And it was the one that was out of all of them showed the most purple in the actual flower itself. So bag appeals up there too, obviously with the frost and a little bit of purpling. And then it was actually one of out of my, like if I were to just pick out of the ones that I smoked, like on terpenes alone, it wasn't my favorite, but it was everybody else's favorite in terpenes alone. So I just went with the majority on that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because oftentimes the flower is a mix of purple and green, but the leaves are really deep purple that they'll fade, and sometimes the buds will actually be mostly green with just a little bit of purple depending on the pheno. And some of them are
That's what I got.
some are so frosty. I mean, like ridiculous. I think it's that purple punch mother. It just throws tons of frost in some of the phenos, and those cookie phenos can yield tons of dry sift. Like when I ran the trim from that across the trim bin, it was just ridiculous how little material created so much. Like it was just insanely frosty.
Then after that, I've got actually still sitting right here on my desk, so I didn't want to put them away. I got some predicated breeding to go through too, so I got a big stash of stuff ahead of me. Try to get
Send
through.
it.
It's always fun popping new seeds. That's why I like to pop something new every single run. I got some of the American ones, Amy Aces right now, and Donnie Burger going side by side. They're just kind of mid-veg, I'd say, getting ready to go into the flower tent here soon. So exciting times.
Hey, Jack, what is the Donnie Burger cross? If you don't
It's
mind
a
me-
It's got 2 GMOs, but to tell a little bit of the backstory, it's a Larry OG F8 male that was made by Skunk House Genetics, and he actually is the guy who found the GMO cut. That cut that goes around that everybody calls GMO is known as garlic cookies from Mamiko seeds. He popped garlic cookies from Mamiko seeds, which is like a forum cut Girl Scout cookie to ChemD, I think, and he found the GMO pheno, that one that runs like 78 to like 83 days. It is ridiculously long flowering, but has a pretty a lot of people really like it for resin, for flower. It's just got a distinct aroma. It's potent, tests really, really high. A lot of people know about the GMO. Doesn't stand for garlic, mushroom, onion for anybody who's out there who's curious. It was more the Girl Scout cookies back in the day were getting accused of using GMO like in their actual Girl Scout cookies, and the plant kind of grew like it had GMOs. So
it always trips me up every time somebody mentions those strain. I think of genetically modified organisms and like gene splicing and stuff like
Me
that.
too.
I mean, it's like, I don't know.
People be like, "Oh, I love that GMO." I'm like, I'm pretty sure you said you didn't.
It's technically garlic cookies, so it but yeah, the strain and that's
it
funny.
that
That is
because it grew
ironic,
like-
Matthew, because a lot of people do say I love GMO, but they're if you talk to them any other time, they're like GMO is the worst thing for the world and the environment, and they just go off
Yeah,
on
well,
it.
typically around agriculture or horticulture in general, GMO stands for genetically modified organisms. So,
100%. Yeah, and that's what they're mocking.
I got that GMO by root beer from Mean Gene. I mean, I did a stem rub yesterday, and it smells like it's a terpene profile I've never smelled before. It's like extremely weird.
I'm curious
You know,
about the root
hold on.
beer.
Let me dive on this just for a second, because is it just desensitizing us? That's what I'm worried about. That it's making cannabis smokers sort of like immune to the GMO, and then later when we actually have like genetically modified cannabis, and it has to come with like a label that says GMO, everybody's gonna just think it was crossed with GMO.
That could be honestly like a little bit of a negative application of it, but it was more, if you look into like the story, it was them making light and making fun of Girl Scout cookies for getting in trouble for that, and the plant grew so ridiculously that it kind of almost looked like it could be a GMO plant because it's so fucking huge and it stretches crazy.
I get it.
But
These are
I
just
agree,
things
it's
I
not
think about when high, you know.
It's like green crack and a lot of the other AK-47 problematic names in the cannabis community. I don't love them and support it because technically it's like people's medicine. So if you're like, oh yeah, green crack is like my best medicine, like imagine that. Imagine that's the only thing that helps somebody, and they have to say like, hey, I want green crack.
Oh,
Give me
dude,
green
Girl
crack.
Scout
That's the
crack
only one.
was one of my favorites. So yeah, I get it.
Those names are
I'm crossing all my nails to GMO.
But to answer Kyle's initial question, Donnie Burger is that's guy, Skunk House. He bred Larry OG to F8, which basically means he took the Larry OG cut, crossed it to something else, and then back crossed it, or filial generation crossed it up to F8 to get what he considered an OG male, like a male OG that he could breed with. Because for those who don't know, OG Kush is a clone only, so you don't have a male from it. So he basically made one, crossed that to the GMO cut, which he was already known for having and had in his stable, and that's called Han Solo Burger. So GMO crossed to Larry OG F8 male is Han Solo Burger. Then he took that and crossed it back to GMO, which would be called a GMO back cross, or what he calls the Donnie Burger. That's what I'm growing right now. I bought a pack of those seeds from Skunk House Genetics. So it's GMO cross to Larry OG F8 if you put it all in there.
I'm waiting on a couple of things from that breeder too. I'm just getting it through James Bean, so he owns seeds here now.
whenever he's around in town, I always hit him up and shoot the shit with him and see what kind of seeds he's got.
He's a
It
good
seems
dude
like
to be
Skunk
plugged in with.
House- Seems like both Skunk House and Bloom Seed Co. are really hot right now. Like that, those two strains, stuff sells out so fast.
Bloom is formerly was called Oni Seeds, and Bloom is known for their hash producing varieties. If you look at their logo, it's actually like basically a seedling with two little leaves and
Oni is a different
trichomes.
person.
They used to work together. Oni
So
and
Harry Palms is Bloom Seed Company, and
I
Oni
know
different company.
Harry used to work with Oni back in the day. That was
But they weren't the same.
Harry.
Right.
Harry Palms became like that was the brand, and then it became Bloom Seed Co. But I followed them since when they were buddy back in the day. I think that they might not be on good terms anymore, but they definitely used to work together. I just care about the good shit. I don't really get into people's drama. I just like the good strains, and like I see people killing it with some of their like peach rings and different crosses from Bloom. So shout out to Bloom Seed Co. I haven't run any of their stuff yet, but everything I've seen grown, and a lot of, like I said, the big hash producers out here in California, he is very popular among a lot of the people growing for solventless.
We're currently growing sour banana cookie at one facility, and then another we're actually growing the biscotti cream, and then that biscotti cream male is getting pollinating everything in there. Death Breath, I think F1 Royal, I think SFVOG, the fronts.
I'm going to go over to Mean Gene from Mendocino's page because Kyle was just talking about the GMO cross to root beer. And I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, we talked about the root beer and I was saying I didn't know what it was. I went and copied and pasted a lot of the article text from Mean Gene's post, but I'm going to bring it up here and screen share it so that the people can get an idea of what root beer was because I wasn't aware of what it is. And I'm sure a lot of others out there are curious. So I'll be back in just a sec.
I can't remember either, but he had a little graph. I think before one of the seed banks like made a little thing that said what it was.
Like a bracket.
Sorry, I'm moving slower than anticipated over here. He just posts a lot. That's what it comes down to. Found the post. Here we go. All right. Share screen. Share. Boom. We'll make it full screen. And then I'm going to have to zoom in. Okay, so originally made by breeding Headband Mother with Hollywood Pure Kush, and then crossed the Hollywood Pure Kush to a Hindu and a black Affy. And he goes on to describe a little bit about him. So I'll just read off the first few sentences. He says the Headband clone was similar to Sour Diesel, but with added funk and potency. Hollywood Pure Kush is an older OG Kush type clone with great flavor and power. The Hindu clone is an old plant from Mendocino County with a similar profile to Bubba Kush. The black Affy in this cross is believed to be an old pure Afghani from Spy Rock. It has beautiful colors and strong flavor that translates well to the flavor when smoked and has a big influence on the flavor of the root beer. She's a fast-growing plant that stretches quite a bit during the flowering period. The leaves often change near harvest time and take on a color similar to the actual root beer. The reason I wanted to read that is I was talking about why the hell is it named root beer? Like, is it a root beer flavor? And that is, to my knowledge, and what he posted on his own page, the origin story there of the name is based on the leaf color. But they go on to describe, with some added purple and sometimes nearly black when grown indoors. Outdoors, they tend to stay greener. Buds grow neatly spaced on long, narrow branches, ending in fairly short cola. They go on to talk about how it kind of tastes like creamy and something like that. Let's see.
That one is literally some weird acidic soda root beer, though.
It says unburned root beer has a mild, fruity flavor with hints of Kush, sassafras, and cola soda. When burned, root beer has a rich, smooth flavor with hints of roots tonic, chocolate, coffee, vanilla, cola, sassafras, and root beer without the wintergreen, all in subtle amounts with dominant flavor being thick, hashy, and earthy.
No, wintergreen, 0 out of 10, unsmokable.
No, it said without wintergreen.
That's what I'm saying.
That would be weird for sure.
Oh, so you're looking for the minty stuff because
that was
somebody else asked-
the joke. Yeah, because you need that for the good root beer, man.
Yeah, so like that cut that they gave me, I've been doing a stem roll because it's obviously not in flour because they so to be completely honest, they sent it in clone form and they sent it in pure dark. So obviously in as a grower, you got to assume like this clone had 3 days of darkness via mail. So it thinks it's supposed to be in flour. So it not only was like completely confused, but also had to come back to fruition being like, oh, hey, no, like I'm back in veg. So
this is why you need to be using plant packers.
Step up and get a plant packer. I was just about to say that shit. They need to step it up.
So I'm not going to talk shit because I love Mean Gene and I also love Skunk Tech, but whatever. It came normal. And it's brought back to health, but at the same time, like, so I've done a stab rub recently and like the smell is so unique. It's like the soda pop with garlic, with root beer, and it's still extremely small and it's in clone form. I'm extremely just excited to see like what comes from that.
But dude, yeah, Kyle Cushman always tells the story of when he got his strawberry cough clone. It was only 6 inches tall and in a brown paper bag, but it stank like strawberry already. And when I grew his cross of, it was Subcool's cross actually, strawberry daiquiri. It was Jack the Ripper crossed with Kyle Cushman's strawberry cough, and it smelled from early veg like real strawberries, like, and all the way through flower it tasted like strawberry and it had a great aroma and it went along with the flavor. So I definitely think sometimes even in veg you can get some of these aromas that stick through. So maybe you got 100%. Something special there, especially Skunk Tech. He, for those who don't know, different guy than Skunk House Genetics. He's worked with Josie Wales in the past. He made the Gorilla Glue for IBL and a bunch of different GG4 crosses with Josie's permission. Yeah, Skunk Tech is a good dude, does a lot of good work in my opinion.
Yeah. I've spoken to him a lot in the last couple months and he's extremely a good person.
Oh fuck, sure. I'm tripping. I'm confusing him with Mycotech. I just fucked up. Mycotech is the one who,
well, he's still a good person.
They're both good.
Skunk Tech is badass too. I just the tech at the end fucked me up. Mycotech is the one who made the GG4 IBL. Sorry for the confusion. We're live. We're doing it live. Sometimes the Wikipedia of cannabis is incorrect.
I just wanted to kind of inform you guys too. I haven't mentioned it to anybody, but I got the okay to. So you know that there was a huge legal battle with Gorilla Glue strains, and that battle has unfortunately been lost. And so a corporate attorney owns that company. Cat's going to be starting something different. So yeah, just a heads up. And those people are going to be going after anybody using the Gorilla Glue name.
What about GG4?
Yeah, they're going to be trying to go after people. So
they own GG4, GG5, Glucci, Original Glue, which is formerly known as.
Who literally has the time to invest to all these what is it, growers or facilities or who?
They'll probably only go after things that make sense economically to go after.
Right, yeah, of course.
Like Canada has a lot of people doing GG4 in legal markets, so they can go and say, hey, you guys have not licensed this from us. We have a certain number of licensed people growing it. If you're going to call it that, you have to pay us our licensing fee. And you have to get it from us.
Right. So it must be lucrative for them enough to find a group that's willing to attack these people. That's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest strains on the planet, and they've got the intellectual property rights to it because a dead man fucking withstood the wrath of Gorilla Glue. He came on this show. If you want to go listen to it on Stitcher Podcast, Josie Wales, the guy who fucking made Gorilla Glue, came on the show and talked to all of us. And he told us about how he thought it was a bullshit letter. He didn't even think that he was big enough to get the attention of Gorilla Glue. So when they sent him a cease and desist and said, stop using the name Gorilla Glue, he just ignored it. The second time around, he was in actual legal trouble because he kept on doing what he was doing. And
there is a silver lining, and that is GG Strains, which is another Oklahoma, formerly from Hawaii.
That's Gray Skull. He's another friend of mine. He's out here. And there's going to be some continued work, but it's going to be under a obviously a different company name.
That's the way to do it, man. I think the people that care will follow the new one and know. For those who don't know, Gray Skull gave Josie the genetics on the forums back in the day. Josie, no one was giving him any respect or love. And Gray Skull said, hey, man, I'll share some of my stuff with you. And he sent it over to him, and that's how the Gorilla Glue came to be. It wouldn't have not ever been created if it weren't for Gray Skull making that opportunity happen. So
Fried Piper in the chat says they should call it chimpanzee adhesive, and I kind of have to agree with that.
I like that.
That's a good one.
Nothing you can do about that.
Sticky.
Yeah.
People will know.
Yeah.
You know, if it's without having to use the name. You know,
Turpogs is under attack right now from Skittles. Skittles, the brand that owns them, is coming after Turpogs for the use of the word Skittles, even with the Z. Guess what? The Z is not going to do it when you're copying their colors and their shapes and their logos.
The Willy Wonka. Yeah.
They even copied their fucking saying. They even say taste the rainbow.
God.
I mean,
I don't understand
A
why.
registered trademark.
I don't know. Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm okay with being wrong.
I'm totally okay with them doing all that stuff because I think it's hilarious and it's like whatever, dude. Who gives a shit?
But it's
But these
definitely
people are
gonna
just
rain
assholes.
shit on them. Like it's definitely gonna
I
rain.
mean,
you got to remember though,
These
guys.
corporate guys are
Of
assholes.
course they are, but you know, but these little guys. I mean, not the little guys, but the guys that have built their brand around their other people's things. They're gonna get shit rained on them.
Yeah.
But here's the
they're
thing,
asking for
like
trouble.
Matt
Let's
said,
let Spartan jump in, and then let's
Little-
give Doc a chance.
name changes and shit. And keep it.
we should be civil.
Spartan, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, you have to think of the other side of it. I mean, if somebody was wanting to represent themselves as Brandon Rust that wasn't Brandon Rust, you'd want to go after them. You'd want them to stop because
I agree with
They're gonna
that.
be
That's
shitting
what
all.
they were doing.
They're gonna be shitting all over your name. You know what I
Hey,
mean?
if they
You're not
were
gonna
out there
produce
like
something
building
good.
wells in like third world countries and shit, I'd be like, go ahead and use my name.
Yeah, but that's not what they're doing.
What if they're
Well,
selling
at the
vapes
beginning of
with
the
your
show, I
name?
used your name, bro.
They're selling
I mean,
shitty ass weed.
Yeah, I do think it's a little
Property
short-sighted.
Hey, I'll tell you this. I don't like it when people use my
complaining
name.
about this.
I don't like that when people use my name and pictures to make IG trap pages.
Yeah,
And that happens too.
Yeah,
I
but
wanna let
you're
Doc-
looking
Oh,
at
that's
direct
happened to me too.
competitors. And last time I checked, cannabis and candy are what we would call complementary products, not competitive
synergistic
products.
even.
And you know what?
Doc, with that being said, you're looking at a child-friendly market with candy.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Hey, but
Talking about
here's the
adult
thing.
use product that
They did it
I
with the
think-
Marlboro Man, so why
Yeah.
not do it here?
Dude, I probably eat more candy than any child that I know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Homie's
that's-
sitting here with a bag of Skittles right now.
Dude, I mean, I'm telling you, candy isn't just like, oh, candy's for kids. Because
I know, but that's who
I
it's
don't let
marketed
my
at
kid have candy.
often. It's often
Yeah, I
marketed at
understand the
children.
company's desire to maintain their brand image. I mean, that's what companies do, and that company has a multi-million-dollar ad budget designed
Family-friendly
specifically for
budget.
that.
Yeah,
But
the
you know
other
what?
thing,
Basically, Brendan's house has the most Halloween candy.
the other
It
thing
just
to
seems that
consider
their
is
advertising in particular kind of goes along with the being high. That's all.
sure,
You know,
it's just- people are just gonna
Like taste the rainbow. I'm sorry, but you know,
Right. You got to be high
these
as
companies,
to think that.
my opinion is these companies should be using the extra publicity. Like Skittles could be like, showing somebody with red eyes and looking at the clocks. It's like 4:30 or 4:27.
Just fire
And like
back.
pick up the Skittles and like, oh, these are so
It's the
good.
Gorilla Glue.
I mean,
Gorilla Glue
Yeah,
could be
no,
like,
that's
oh,
clever. I like that. But like
oh,
legally,
it's so
legally, they got
sticky.
to.
I
Legally,
would-
they have
It's so
to
sticky. It's
protect their
stickier
brand.
than Gorilla Glue buds.
I would like team up. I'd be like, yo, you know
Yeah.
what? Why don't we
Collab.
license? Yeah, let's all make some money here. I mean, I don't know. It's funny. I think the whole marketing thing for cannabis and the way that it has to kind of be done nowadays is kind of ridiculous because it was usually just the homies coming over
Right,
and
right.
going, dude, that's your fire. Let me get some of that.
Yeah.
Now it's like
They
walk
name
down
it
the
some
candy
funky
section.
shit, like,
pick at something in the grocery store and say we're going to call it this in whatever candy or dessert section. Max, I was curious, as our guest this week, what are your thoughts on all of these strains being named after, whether it's like Super Mario Brothers, back with Matt Rise had the Hash Brothers where he was using Mario and Luigi in the logo. He got in trouble with Nintendo. Then we had Gorilla Glue 4 getting in trouble with actual Gorilla Glue. Now we're seeing Skittles get in trouble. Girl Scout cookies actually went after dispensaries and the brand cookies now for using the name Girl Scout cookies. It's called GSC now. So I'm curious, Max, what are your thoughts on these names and this convention?
I honestly, I kind of think it's crazy that, you know, they don't even want to recognize the cannabis community as illegal or, you know, that you're even supposed to be doing it, but they want to sue people growing pot for a name that they chose to call their cannabis. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of dumb. It's just all about people trying to get money that they think they deserve. And I mean, until we're recognized as a federally legal, you know, thing to do, or, you know, people grow weed or sell it, like, I don't see how they should be able to come at, you know, these little guys, like, you know, the guy that Josie Will that made GG4. I don't understand how they can just go after, you know, an individual who popped a bunch of seeds and found a keeper and called it something. I don't know. I don't think it's right.
I'm really super honestly confused about like our legal system, our justice system, and our like constitution, because like I always was under the assumption that, you know, there really had to be a crime, you know, a victim for a crime to be committed, and it's like that's just not how it is, and I don't. And
but Brandon, they would argue in this case, Gorilla Glue is the victim. You are you're making
no.
I'm
just talking about. I'm talking about like cultivating anything like just how could you like a war against a plant? How can there be a law?
How is smoking weed or growing weed hurting anybody? Is what he's saying. And you know, to be a crime.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And so how can they chop us back in that regard? And then also corporate companies can.
It's not about the crime. It's about the fucking money. I hate to say it. The
laws,
everything's written to make the people that are wealthy. They want to protect their wealth, so they get these politicians that will protect their interests.
Protected to just be able to have those like rights, like instead of having all these statutories or cities say, hey, you can do this or you can do that. And it's like, dude, why don't you fucking mind your own business and let me? I'm not hurting anybody. I want to go back and live in 1850, yo.
Oh, man.
But with power, but with modern day technology.
I can build a generator. We got this.
Well, you know, I mean, I started saying it before, and I guess I'll say it here. Like, they legally are obligated to. Like, I tell the story about the entomologist Alex Wild all the time. He's a photographer too, very good at what he does. He had to at some point, because he was so prolific and his pictures were being copied on the internet and going everywhere, even like big companies were using it. He basically had to like stop a big portion of what he was doing and hire people who would like literally just, that was their whole job, is to go after people who like the ones who are like really screwing with taking his intellectual property. And, you know, I have complicated opinions about that myself. Personally, I think that, you know, I disagree with a lot of copyright law and trademark law and things like that. But like in the system that they exist in, they have to protect their brand. If they do not, they lose it. They lose parts of those rights. And I don't understand all of the various like intricacies.
Yeah.
But like
you have to defend your patents or your trademarks, otherwise they'll lose you lose your claim.
Bruce Buffer is the perfect example. The guy who says, "Let's get ready."
Can I say something about the GG strains thing? I mean, they're on both sides of this. So on the one hand, Gorilla Glue, the glue manufacturer, is suing them because they don't want the cannabis company to profit off of their branding.
No. This is a different legislation. They finished all of that stuff.
Right.
We're talking about after his death and who owns the actual company.
Okay, but it's just the same thing that is their model is to also license the strains, and if you use that brand without paying for the license, they would also sue you. I mean, that's just it's a brand that was valuable, and you know, I mean, it always struck me as weird that you would complain about one side of that and not realize that you're doing the same thing on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I think he kind of earned the keep because he went through the legal battle. Like Cookies now has the Cookies brand and everybody knows them, even though they might call it GSC, and like Cookies and other variants of Cookies got popular. With the Gorilla Glue, Josie got sued, lost money, had to settle, I'd imagine, out of court, and he came up with the resolution that they could no longer call it Gorilla Glue 4. They could call it Original Glue, and they could say, like, for a year, formerly known as FKA, formerly known as Gorilla Glue, now Original Glue, or GG4. And because he went through that process, and like he didn't know going in, like most people don't know going in, they should probably look into it. Like, oh, if I use somebody else's brand, he just thought, like he told on the show, like, this shit made my hand stick to my phone like Gorilla Glue. So like they called it Gorilla Glue. Like,
Right.
it was just like a silly little stoner offhand thing with his buddy in the grow room. Like, and it became a worldwide sensation. Like most people don't plan for that happening. So
Right.
Yeah, and those are cool stories, and I love stories like that. And I definitely empathize with like what you're saying, Brendan, Aaron. Like that, like sometimes those little idiosyncrasies that develop culturally, like they don't happen in a vacuum, obviously, and it kind of sort of sucks to like see this kind of negative attention. But at the same time, it's like, are you not a biter if you're like, I'm gonna literally use a brand name that already exists instead of not doing that, instead of doing literally anything else than that.
Yeah,
Potentially that could be
bad
interpreted
look.
that way, but I think there's so many people that interpret it as like it's just simple brand association. I know that and I like that, so this must be like that. They named it because it tastes like that or something, you know, like.
Well, especially in the case of Skittles, like if it tastes like Skittles, like it's hard to describe something else that tastes like Skittles.
Right.
No,
True.
Skittles taste like a fruit. I mean, what the fuck? So
There's
you
a bunch of
Skittles
fruit
is
in it.
supposed
It's
to
like a
be an
combination.
abstraction of, right? So
The
It's like a
original
combination
Skittle,
of
nature's
fruit.
Skittle.
Yeah.
Fruit.
yeah.
Fruit.
It's like
Right
a
on the
rainbow.
back.
Like I'll tell you
Yeah,
this,
Last time I
my
looked at the back of a Skittles, it has a fucking little thing. It says this one is this flavor, this one's that flavor. They do taste like real things. Just call it. I don't know.
agree.
Have a little fucking imagination. Stop fucking taking 2 seconds to name your strain. It's not hard. We can't bitch that they were treating us like a legitimate business. You know, we can't bitch that they want to treat us like every other business out there. That's something we should be happy to
fair
see.
enough,
I
Spartan.
agree with that.
You're right. You're right, bro. You're right.
No, I agree 110% with you, Spartan, on that. It's I'm against people stealing other brands' names. I've been saying for a long time, come up with your own original last name. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
There are a bunch
It
of them out
wasn't.
there.
It wasn't.
You can
it
make
wasn't
up words.
shocking
But
news.
coming up with something catchy, I mean, there's a whole multi-billion-dollar industry around branding and coming up with like catchy brand names.
What's
So
going to happen when Runt
is
gets
valuable.
sued?
Yeah, well, let me ask you guys this. Do you think Gorilla Glue and Skittles would have been as blown up as they are if they weren't named Gorilla Glue and Skittles? Like if
That's
they
a
were
good
just
question.
No, and the
So,
legal
yeah,
case
I
made
think
it
that's
bigger.
part of
that's the real.
Yes, I think they would have in those particular cases.
No,
My
I'm not
opinion is-
sure.
It's hard to know that.
I think the
yeah.
name Gorilla Glue contributed to the popularity of this strain. Yeah.
Even them getting sued, it created a story then that we can tell, like we're talking about right now.
That's
oh,
true.
he got
This
sued.
is free
This
publicity.
is what
Nothing
happened.
happens in a vacuum, right?
Right.
I think I knew the strain before I knew the actual glue. I didn't see the Gorilla guy on the glue bottle before. Like I heard of the strain before I knew of the glue. I'll say
That's
that.
funny. I was
I was
opposite way
aware
around.
of
I want to
it,
give
but-
Spartan a chance to give his final thoughts and shout out, because I know he's got about 15 minutes before he's got to get on Michigan Bros Grow Show, and he's got to take care of the dogs and refill his tray. And I know he's not smoking, but get ready for the next show.
Yep, I gotta refill my tea. But yeah, shout out everybody on the panel. Good show today. Good chat today too. Chat's been keeping me pretty entertained. But yeah, man, I am happy to see that we're treated like a legitimate company. That's what the change I want to see in the cannabis field. So you won't hear me pushing back on being treated like every other business. You will hear me push back on people that, well, if you caught Medical Mondays on Monday, I actually got the chance to tell corporate cannabis what I thought.
That was dope, Spartan. Power to you, bro. That was dope.
Thank you. So yeah, keep vigilant. Keep vigilant in your localities because there's a lot of backdoor lobbyists going on, and you can. It's pretty powerful what you can mobilize just by getting word out. You know, we're calling for a boycott here in Michigan on these big name brands that are trying to take away growing rights here in Michigan, and we've already had one of the, I think it was 5 or 6 parent companies back out of the lobby group. So that's a move in the right direction.
They're running
Other than
Cheers,
scared.
Spartan.
Thanks. Other than
Cheers to
that,
that.
you guys can catch me in 15 minutes at the Michigan Growers Grow Show. And cheers. The growers loved everybody here.
Girls
Later.
love.
Keep up the good fight, brother.
You can email him at
Peace out,
spartangrown@gmail.com, and he's spartangrown on Instagram, all one word. And I think it's really cool. Brandon and the people of Oklahoma just rallied against Metric, and they were
It's true.
successful. And I think that effort actually inspires the people of Michigan to realize how much power they have as a collective group to go against these lobbies with word of mouth, with spreading it through organic roots in the culture, people reposting these stories, reposting these posts and saying, don't support this brand. And I'm not even in Michigan, but I've stopped supporting 3 brands that are out here in California because they're lobbying against home grow in Michigan. And I have friends in Michigan. I have people on this panel, people in this chat that would have their rights legitimately dwindled because a few corporate greedy people are trying to lobby against growers' rights, which is absolutely wrong, especially in the case that many of them came from a caregiver background and now they're fighting against where they came from. It's disgusting and shameful. I highly encourage anybody who's in Michigan, look into the Medical Mondays podcast from last week. Spartan Grown lays it down. They had one of the brands that's part of this manufacturer's lobby come on and try and defend their stance, and Spartan's like basically just tore into him and told him how it was, and it was an entertaining show for sure. But it's important to keep our eyes open and our ear to the ground because constantly laws are changing. Like California shot down several legalization efforts, and I think a lot of people would have liked to see Prop 64 get shot down because although it gave people the right to grow 6 plants, they can't do it outside if your city decides to ban it, which 67% of cities have done. So only 1/3 of Californians can actually grow cannabis outdoors, which if you call that legalization, I think
sense. It's
we're
a fucking
misguided.
plant that
Props-
grows outdoors.
Prop 64 is why I'm leaving California.
You and many
Hey,
others, unfortunately.
My friend Mikey G, he was in Humboldt and he just got out here too. Fucking ton of people I know are moving out here and other places. Everybody, I know so many people in California that are like, I am so done with this place.
Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, 2 multimillionaires have left. I know that they're at least notable figures, and a lot of people in the cannabis community are
Think
familiar
about
with
that.
them
When
and
the
their work.
when some of the wealthiest, most influential people in the state leave, that should give you an indication of how that state is being governed.
Did their business leave though?
Tesla is moving. I mean, they have a gigafactory in Texas, and he's trying to get more of their stuff done in Florida than in California because SpaceX is actually being pushed out. Elon Musk talked a little bit about how they're the only aerospace company in California, and in the last 10 years, like the top 5 have all left their places in California because the regulators made it so difficult. Unfortunately, I love the state. I think it's got great weather. Beautiful
Avoid
people.
the race to the
Cannabis.
bottom, though, guys. I mean,
Like,
yeah.
in politics, we're going to go off the rails here.
If
so,
the if the regulations are there
I'm
for a
happy to
reason.
support high
Who wants to know the
standards.
truth?
Yeah, they're written with blood oftentimes.
6 years.
You're right about that. People don't understand that statement that Matthew just made sometimes. I think that like some of these regulations are, like you said, written in blood. It's because somebody died or was severely injured, so they had to put in regulations that
Right.
might make things cost more and be slower and have higher taxes and things like that. I will say, when I was a kid, I came out to California, I could see the fucking smog in the air in LA all the time. Every time I came out here, it looked like shit. It was gross. It felt terrible to breathe it. And here we are in 2021. The smog is much, much less. The air is much cleaner.
Weird.
And the smogging and doing the things that California has done. Also, like we went from plastic bags being #1 most littered thing on the beach to not even in the top 20 because we put a 10-cent tax on bags at the grocery store. It seemed a little ridiculous to a lot of people at first, but that 10-cent tax ended up changing the environment for better. So,
What, Jack, is it that polluted? That's where
I
the
didn't
smog's coming
actually
from?
encourage us to go down that hole, but yes, good. A little balance is nice.
what was that, Kyle?
Is it that polluted that there's an actual smog from the pollution down
Oh
there?
yeah, I lived in
it was
glorious.
horrible.
I lived in glorious People's Republic of China in the capital, and sometimes like it would be blocked out. The sun is what I'm referring to, but even in LA, sometimes it can be pretty noxious.
It looks
Like,
like a gray fog.
Is it pollution in regards to the facilities and the commercial industries, or is it just like pollution in general?
Cars, vehicles, old vehicles that are dumping
Mhm.
like
A lot of
like
things,
old
yeah,
diesel
the
trucks and
ports
stuff.
contribute to it too. Agriculture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a combination of everything, but the air quality you can like look at the parts per million of certain pollutants, and it's gone down over the past several years. And more electric vehicles being on the road is actually improving the air quality in certain communities, even
Great.
lower income communities in San Diego. I listened to one of the guys in San Diego who's like the air quality management person for different regions, and he talked about how just people switching over to EVs has actually shown noticeable decreases in lung and certain like asthmas in preschool and young children that are having these issues for years and years and years in certain areas. They're seeing less of it now. So I think it
Well,
does make a change.
not to shout it out, but if y'all want to come up to New England where it's fresh, fresh air.
Breathe some of that good air. You know, what's crazy is like Matthew was talking about with China, there's a Canadian group that was bottling fresh mountain air in Canada and sending it in bottles over to China. So like
Oh
rich
yeah, there's
Chinese
big
people.
money in that.
I think
That's
I
a
saw that
industry.
movie, Spaceballs, right?
That's the real life now.
Yeah,
It's
no, people,
idiocracy and
people pay money for
Spaceballs.
that. People pay money for canisters of fresh mountain air. Yeah,
It's sad
a
but
real
true.
thing.
Oh man.
That is probably one of the.
Is it like at
greatest
least
commodities of
pressurized,
all
or is
time.
it just like that container of air?
I know.
I think it's
right?
Can you
pressurized.
like take hits off of it or something?
Yeah,
Or is
That's
it
a
just
good
like
question,
that's
Dr.
it?
MJ.
You just
That's a good
open it up
question,
and
man.
it's like gone.
But no,
I think
if you
it's
come to
pressurized,
if
like
you
a
come to
mask.
New England, I mean, it's all mountains and woods and ticks. If you love ticks, come on up. But
Watch
I
out
do
for
not
that
love ticks.
lime.
So I'm gonna have to decline.
right. You want lime? Come on up.
Shout out to
So we
Nick.
were originally talking about cannabis on this podcast, right?
That's true.
Yeah, we went off the rails quite a bit there, but we're coming up to the point where we're going to go around to the shout outs right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
first, I'm going to pass it over to our duo in Oklahoma, Brandon Rust and Aaron the Grower.
Brandon Rust. You can find me at rust.brandon. Almost had the account shut down because some douchebag wants to go and report all my posts, but whatever. Couldn't keep me down.
You got to stop doing that, Aaron. I'm just kidding.
Got me. And then this guy right here.
Oh yeah, me. I hate a bunch of RSO. I don't even know where I am anymore. I'm Aaron the Grower, ATG Acres on Instagram. ATGacres.com is my website where you can get yourself a plant packer. Best way to ship your clones. Thanks, Jack, for that. And it was really nice to see everybody. This was a really cool, fun thing we got to surprise you guys with here. Last minute kind of linking up that I was here doing some stuff. So yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you both. It was cool to see you on the same window tonight. And thank you so much for joining us. Next up, we have Dr. MJ.
Hey guys, this was a fun episode. I'm Dr. MJ Coco from cocoforcannabis.com. Make sure everybody knows about the strain review giveaway. You got like 1 day left to submit your strain reviews for the MediGrow giveaway that we're doing on the 1st. And if you missed that, we'll do another giveaway next month. So stay tuned for that. And I got a video out probably on Wednesday this week. So subscribe to my channel on YouTube and come visit us at Coco for Cannabis. I had a lot of fun, guys. It was fun seeing Aaron get high with Brandon and sort of get spaced out there. That was sort of what I was paying attention to during most of the show. And yeah, grower love to the chat, grower love to the rest of the panelists, and see you guys next week.
Thank you so much for joining us as always, Dr. MJ. And next up, we have the American one.
Jack panel, it was good chatting it up. These ain't my favorite topics, to be totally honest. So I'll say, marketing, names and stuff. I like talking about the plant and what it likes, but it's always good talking with you guys. So like, it makes the other ones even better, and I'm not lying. So, but it was great chatting it up, and I always like checking in on chat, and cheers to everyone out in chat land. And yeah, excellent. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us. I always appreciate the honest feedback. Next week, we'll get into a topic that we talked about last week, which is plant training and different methods like LST and topping and what we all prefer, and some different tips and tricks like that. We had a guest this week, so I figured we'd introduce them and kind of just see where it went from there. So I think with that being said, I want to pass it next to Matthew Gates.
Hey everyone, this is Matthew Gates. I'm an integrated pest management specialist, and I'm in a bunch of different places lately. You can find me on Twitter at SyncAngel. You can find me on Instagram at SyncAngel. You can also find me on YouTube, Zenthanol. And it's the same account that I'm commenting in a chat with right here today. Loved the chat. I did find these conversations to be pretty interesting and at the very least entertaining. It is a bit of a madhouse, isn't it? So if you're interested in IPM help, you can come find me on IPM or on YouTube as well as Instagram and Twitter. Again, thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. As always, a pleasure to have you and your expertise joining us on the panel and just general feedback. Next up, we have Kyle.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Kyle Brader, and I appreciate everybody that listened this long. And if you want to find feminized seeds, I have a website that's the letter P followed by breeding, pbreeding.com. You can find all my social media photos or videos on predicatedbreeding.com. And I appreciate Jack for making this come alive for the last, dear Lord, last year. And I love all y'all, and hope to see you guys next week. Take care.
Take care, Kyle. Thank you so much for joining us. Aaron, not Aaron, the American one's got his hand up.
Yeah, I would say, I just got reminded, Chad, would be remiss not to remember everyone on the Memorial Day weekend and thank everyone for their service and their loss concerning this weekend. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you for that reminder, the American one. I lost my uncle last year. He was a veteran of Vietnam, and tough loss in the family. And definitely respect all the service members out there that are doing their thing for our country. I'm going to be probably going to miss a Sunday one of these weeks to go join the Veterans Walk and Talk. They have a chapter out here in San Diego, as well as all over the U.S. They have different walk and talks where veterans go, and whether you're a veteran or not, you can go out and talk with some veterans and just be there and build a little bit of community. Most of them are cannabis friendly. A lot of them are getting into the mycology side of things as well. So it's a really interesting time, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with them. And like the American one said, this weekend is Memorial Weekend, so got to make sure to give credit where it's due and remember all those that have been lost. And last, and I guess not least, myself, Jack Greenstock. I am your host. Or I almost forgot our guest here. Would have been a terrible host if I did that. Max Scrimmon Ruby.
How's it going? I
Final
just want to
thoughts and
say
shout out.
thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. These topics, yeah, I'm not so versed in. I mean, I'm not really in the legal state, so. But besides that, I love being on, and I appreciate you guys all coming here every week and teaching everybody how to grow. There's a bunch of great resources here with Cocoa for Cannabis, and just listening to old podcasts. Literally, I've learned everything from you guys, so I appreciate all your help and let me sneak in your DMs for a question here and there.
We're happy to help, and it was great having you this week. It's always cool to have a new person, a new perspective on the panel. I'm sorry we didn't get to you more. It was definitely an interesting topic. Not everybody's wheelhouse, but sometimes we get going down a rabbit hole, and I'm not the best at realizing when it's time to shift gears there, but I do my best here as the host. I enjoy every week. I learn something a little bit new and different, and enjoy just the company of this awesome panel and our guests. So thank you, Max, for joining us. Thank you, everybody on the panel, and thank you, everyone in the chat who's listening. Hopefully we have helped you similarly to Max, and if not, hopefully we will be able to in the future. My name is Jack Greenstock. You can find me on Instagram as well as Cannabis, the name on the logo there behind me. You can also find me at Jack_Greenstock on Twitter, or email me at jackgreenstock47@gmail.com. 50 Strains of Green has been printed, second edition. Boom, right here. Got it in my hands. It's a real thing.
Nice.
Brandon Rust is in the book. He's featured, and the Gorilla Glue 4, as well as his Limerilla, are both featured in the book. So if you are interested, be sure to hit me up in the DM. 50strains.com. I purchased for the next 2 years, is being built right now. So anybody who wants to purchase with a credit card will be able to do that in the next week or so. So that'll be good stuff, because otherwise you have to do it through PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, which I'm fine with if you're okay with that. So if you would like to use one of those payment methods, hit me up at Jack Greenstock at any of those places. So thank you all so much for joining me. It's another great week. Appreciate everybody being here. Peace and love. Catch y'all next week. Jack Greenstock signing out.
Grow a love.